Now, I must stress that these are all allegations and a lot of this is opinion based on what's available out there. But this just goes to show you that we need transparency and accountability because a lot of this looks very, very fishy. Now, let's read this article from The Australian. It says, "Feed it to Katy. Higgins Shiraz text plot revealed." Now, if you're wondering who Katy is and what they're feeding to her, well, Katy is Katy Gallagher, a Labor minister at that time, in the opposition at that time, but currently is the finance minister. Now, during that time of the Higgins issue in Parliament, Katy Gallagher was asked whether she knew about this story prior to it actually being aired on the project. And there was some sort of very vague denials or not answering that question. So there's questions now around whether Katy Gallagher actually misled the Parliament or the Senate during that time. And it's important because later on, when the rape trial eventually was dropped by the prosecution and nothing eventuated from that. So as far as we know, in the public's eye at least, there is no guilty verdict, there is no determination at all, and there probably will never be in a criminal basis. As far as we could tell, the following that the conclusion of that trial, there was a payout to Brittany Higgins from the Parliament. And some people are putting this figure up to almost $3 million. Now, the figure exactly doesn't matter. The fact is that we don't actually even know the figure. And that is actually a massive red flag and a problem. And I understand that sometimes this stuff is done in private and there's conditions attached to it. But because of the circumstances around this now, and the fact that all these revelations are being made, and the fact that Katy Gallagher was known to the couple as someone that they were feeding this information to about this before it was even made a national issue by the Project Interview, and the fact that there has been certain denials made by these Labour politicians. And it was later that Katy Gallagher's finance ministry itself, right, oversaw this payment of this payout to Brittany Higgins, that the people involved with Brittany Higgins in terms of her employers, Michaelia Cash and Senator Reynolds, they weren't privy to those discussions unless they waived their right to have legal issues covered by the Commonwealth. See how there's like a web of things happening here now. And that payout actually happened, right? Get this, without a court issue being filed in relation to that actual claim. Okay. And it was almost authorized in almost one day. And all of it is being kept secret from us. And because of these revelations in these messages, it raises many red flags. Because some of these messages seem to indicate that there was a disdain there for the Liberal leader, Scott Morrison at that time, the Prime Minister. Certain indications that the couple themselves had these issues with Scott Morrison. Okay, that's people don't like Scott Morrison. Granted, a lot of people don't like him. Whatever, that doesn't matter. But then these messages also implicate these Labour MPs who were coordinating this type of attack in a way, because there was been major ramifications from this, and the fact that there's been denials. So that just kind of gives you a baseline understanding of what all this relates to. And I know I'm going over the same thing multiple times, but it's very important that we understand what's happened here. That someone has received money, taxpayer money, millions of dollars, and there is no accountability to how that happened. And now we're seeing this web of almost conspiratorial style deceit. In my opinion, we don't know. But when we're seeing this stuff without the actual full picture being provided to us, it opens the door for all types of speculation. And look, I'm going to read these and you have a look over it and decide for yourself what this implies. So, feed it to Katy Higgins. Shiraz text plots revealed. Text messages between Brittany Higgins and boyfriend David Shiraz reveals the pair's bid to enlist senior Labour figures to pursue rape allegation. So let's just bring this up here. Okay, let's go down. A tranche of previously unseen text messages between Brittany Higgins and her boyfriend David Shiraz has revealed the pair plan to directly enlist the help of senior Labour figures to pursue Miss Higgins' rape allegations and acclaim the coalition government covered it up. The text reveals Mr. Shiraz arranging drops for favoured reporters, organising meetings with Labour MPs to bolster support for Higgins' claims of a cover-up by the coalition government, and disparaging former Prime Minister Scott Morrison, saying, "I still hate the C word." Miss Higgins says he's about to get effed over. Just wait. We've got him. So she's there referring to Scott Morrison, it appears. Anthony Albanese this week empathetically denied claims of Labour involvement made in a 5-hour pre-interview brainstorming session in which Miss Higgins, Mr. Shiraz, Network 10 presenter Lisa Wilkinson and a producer Angus Llewellyn discussed whether friendly MPs could be used to publicise her case. Asked by the Australian whether he had been solicited by Miss Wilkinson or anyone else associated with Miss Higgins to publicise the case in question, time or elsewhere, the Prime Minister responded simply saying no. However, the text messages seen by the Australian reveals Mr. Shiraz was in contact with Mr. Albanese, and that both the former journalist and Miss Higgins had dozens of interactions with various other Labour MPs, some before Miss Higgins went public with her rape allegations. The texts come from material produced during the investigation of Bruce Lehrmann and were widely distributed within the Australian Federal Police, the ACT Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Defence, and possibly other parties. The Australian has redacted large parts of material for privacy reasons, removing detailed unrelated to the political and public interest issues raised. All right, so let's just have a look at some of these text messages. The first lot are about their relationship with the Finance Minister, Miss Katy Gallagher. So Shiraz boasted a special relationship with MP. So 11th of February 2021, 4 days before the project interview, David Shiraz messages Brittany Higgins, "Katy is going to come to me with some questions you need to prepare for. She's really invested now. Ha ha. She's an old friend. We opened a chair together, so you can trust her." Brittany replies, "Going forward, pass my details on to Katy. I'm happy to talk to her." And then this guy writes, No, that's really okay. I don't mind talking to Katy, but we can both speak to her if that's an easier. Please just send people my way going forward. Katy Gallagher messaged me. She's angry and wants to help. She's got the context, says they knew something was wrong because they fired Bruce and not you. They avoided a scandal. Can I see her messages? Yup, I gave her the project interview for context. I hope that's okay. She's not doing anything with it, but I'm also happy to step out and let her talk to you if you want. Basically, I want her to go get all the context before it's so complicated. That's fine. It'll be public pretty soon anyway. Ha ha. So yeah, that's the messages to Katy Gallagher, and that's Katy Gallagher, and she has, even most recently, a couple of days ago, really tried to distance herself from knowing about this stuff earlier and been very vague in her answers. And she went pretty hard against members of the Liberal Party during that time. And when these things are put to her, she was acting very offended by even the accusation of being asked such questions about her prior knowledge. But now it appears that a lot of this stuff was being workshopped and coordinated and planned out how this would be maybe effectively used for a political purpose. And when I talk about conspiracy, I'm talking about almost a political style conspiracy by the Labour Party. Okay, these people, Brittany Higgins, David Shiraz, they may have been wanting themselves to get this story out there and get this message out there. That in itself, there's nothing really too shocking about that itself. But the fact is that these Labour people were involved in this, and they were keeping very silent on the matter, which maybe again is okay. But then they were denying their involvement later on, which raises many red flags. So that's Katy Gallagher. Let's keep going down and check out some of these other text messages where we got our mate here, Albo. Is he in Australia at the moment? I'm not sure. So direct contact with Anthony Albanese and Tanya Plibersek potentially. So 16th of April. So Albo gave me his number. He just came in to do the breakfast show and says if you meet with ScoMo to let him know, and he'll fly to Canberra to be there if you want to meet with him too. For sure. I have no qualms meeting with Albo. And then 22nd of April. Albo locked in at CPO. Details to come. Tanya too. So Tanya is Tanya Plibersek. And then 26th of March, I believe that these messages, I just want to make sure. Yeah, text messages between David Shiraz and Brittany Higgins about Scott Morrison's, which have been described to the Australian. Okay, so this text message from the 26th of March, 2021. He's about to get fucked over. Just wait, we've got him. Will you explain when I see you? Yes, I still hate the. So, I mean, it's really hard to kind of put all this together. Why is she saying that Scott Morrison is about to get screwed over? Did she find some information from her meetings with these politicians that they were planning some type of orchestration or something? I mean, this is all up in the air now based on this. And I think this is why we need that independent investigation into all of this now, because a lot of it now stinks to high heaven. Let's see if there's any other messages. I'll keep going down. Feed everything to Katy. This is on the 18th of March. At least get Katy to ask about it in estimates. You may as well feed everything you have to Katy. The sooner we can nip it in the bud, the better, especially if we can call them out by name. I've texted Katy and Sarah Hanson Young. 5th of May. Should we get Katy Gallagher's advice regarding Kunkel? She's pretty savage politically. Haha. He'll just deny he confirmed anything. These meetings are more in their interest than ours. I'll just brief it out to Tanya and get her advice. Brief it out to Tanya. Again, I think that's in relation to Tanya Plibersek. And again, these people have been asked point blank, Tanya Plibersek and these politicians have been asked point blank now in the media whether they were actually coordinating some of this stuff with the Higgins camp. And they've, pretty much come out and said no. And here we have this message saying, I'll just brief it out to Tanya and get her advice. Right? Not all of us have access to politicians just to brief stuff out to them and get their advice. Right? You need to have a particular contact. I'm thinking some of these messages, the way that it's implied, it sounds like that they have direct contact with some of these politicians. And David Shiraz here says, Plibersek, that's a good idea. Look, a lot of people are going to be saying, well, what's the big deal here? Like, it's why are you, Rukshan, and all these people who are going on about this issue? Why do you care? Why are you digging this up? What's the big deal? This horrible thing happened. There was a payout. Let's all forget about it. No, wait a second. Horrible thing may have happened in Parliament House, right? At least in the court system, no one's been found guilty of anything. The prosecution dropped it. As far as that goes, that side of it's done. All we have is the story of two staffers, and it's up to people based on whatever circumstantial things they see to have their own opinion. But as a matter of law, it doesn't matter, right? In terms of the Parliament itself, what happened there, we've had denials now from the Liberal MPs that were involved in terms of being their direct employees of Higgins, saying that they did everything by the book and there was nothing untoward in terms of their interactions with the Higgins themselves. Okay, so then we have to ask, what was this payout of this multi-million-dollar payout that was given without it being filed in court, almost instantly given in many, many instances based on the reporting? What was that given for, right? If there was no guilty verdict, if it wasn't established that this actual rape happened, if the MPs in the Liberal Party are saying that in terms of their interactions with Higgins, nothing untoward happened in relation to how they handled the thing, that they themselves were excluded because if they wanted to be included in the actual the payout, the discussions that happened, they would have to forfeit their legal representation that the Parliament would provide. And then the Labour Party, the ministers that were involved in workshopping and discussing this with the Higgins camp prior to the actual interview being aired on the project in some instances, were then the ones overseeing the payment of this payout to Higgins. For what? Because some of the actual claims that were in the claim against the Parliament by the Higgins camp were disproven in many instances in the courtroom or shown to be flawed. So what's happened here? And as members of the public, because our money is now involved, millions of dollars potentially, we have every right to ask questions about this. And if there is something that was legitimately done for a legitimate reason, that was actually a serious thing that happened to Higgins in terms of the treatment in Parliament House, or the parliament knows something that the courts don't know, or whatever it is, that needs to be made public, because we can't live in a country where secret payments are being given to people willy-nilly because two staffers may or may have not done something in the premise of the office. This is not private money. This is not money being paid by a corporation or anything like this. This is taxpayers' money, and that's why all of this has many different implications, and that's why we should definitely keep on this story. Thanks everyone for watching this video. If you're liking my content, you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, and Odyssey at The Real Rukshan. See you next time.